Hello, Sharon.
Hello, Sebastian.
Long time no see.
Long time, 6 years.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm glad to be here at Untitled.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity for this interview to show our new product.
Complete Reef Care. Yes. I will begin this interview to thank the interview organization to permit us to get this interview here in the press booth. Yeah. It's much appreciated. So, bringing back to the topic, the complete reef care, I want to know what is behind the creation of this project, because we know you are a marine biologist and you in chemistry, and you are a lot of TD product, very precise product, and this one is particularly different. Why?
Why? First of all, I would like to give a little bit of background on the development of the reef care program.
Yeah.
For the last 20 years, I worked or researched the biogeochemistry of corals. Yeah. This title relates to how trace element or all the elements are incorporated inside coral's tissue, the hard tissue, the skeleton, together with the soft tissue, which is the coral itself, the animal. The main reasons were first to understand what coral needs. Yeah. The other reason for this research was to find more accurate way to supplement our aquarium. Okay. Because I remind you that back at 2005, 2006, when I approached Red Sea, sophisticated analytical equipment such as ICP were not that common, and we only had such equipment in the laboratory, in Red Sea laboratory. And now it's much more common, the ICP analysis. But
much
back
cheaper
then,
and
much cheaper. Yeah. And at that days, we only had the test kit, the standard analytical test kit, and I wanted to find a way to provide much more accurate supplementing method. So I started with analyzing the chemical demands of coral, what the skeleton take, what the soft tissue take for all the biological processes. And there were two major conclusions, that stands behind the RCP. First of all, I found that all corals, octocoralia and hexacoralia, which are the soft corals and the hard corals, the SPS and LPLs, consume only 36 trace elements from the entire periodic table. Only 36 are actually incorporated in biological processes, which is the skeleton formation, the formation of proper aragonite crystal, and the soft tissue itself with all its biological processes of growth, photosynthesis, and the production of the chromoprotein, which are actually the colors of the corals. And so only 36 elements in all corals. Okay. The other thing that I found, that there is a direct proportion between the calcium uptake and all the trace elements, because
they are all chained?
All chained, but it's in proportion. Okay. So the consumption of calcium, which is the major element that gives you what we call the basal growth estimation. When skeleton, most obvious things that the skeleton, when the corals precipitate the skeleton, it takes the calcium and the carbonate, bond them together, and this is the aragonite. With these elements, these major elements in the skeleton, a lot of other trace elements are incorporated in direct proportion. Okay. So finally,
like a cement,
like cement, to create the aragonite. Okay. But there is a strict ratio. Okay. And it doesn't matter what levels you have in the water, the aragonite precipitate with all the trace element in it in direct proportion. So if you know the calcium consumption, then I know what all the trace elements
you determine
all of them. Okay. The second thing, there is a strict proportion between the soft tissue growth and the skeleton growth. Okay. Because the first thing is the soft tissue expand itself, and then the skeleton is being precipitated. Okay. And the proportion is also similar. So I also analyzed the soft tissue, and I saw that by estimating calcium consumption, I know the exact level of minor and trace element, and to tell you the truth, even the level of nitrogen and phosphate, which actually build the tissue itself, the protein and all of that.
Just a question about the growth of the skeleton and the soft tissue. What is the first? The skeleton?
No. First of all is the soft tissue.
Soft tissue, then
the skeleton, then the coral precipitate. Now, during this period, I also did my PhD. So all of this data, and I wrote down in academic peer reviews. So it was enforced, by. It got much more power when the academic world of coral geochemistry accepted this RCP. So it's not just a research done in Red Sea. It's also published.
Is it widely available?
Yes, for the academic world. Everyone that deal with coral geochemistry now accept what the RCP is based off. Now, when the coral precipitate, now we understand that the precipitation process is much more simple than we thought in the past. Basically, what's happened, that corals bring seawater into the calcification site. You just need to raise the pH, and aragonite is precipitated. This is why everything is precipitated in direct proportion. This was the key. It's a chemical precipitation. Now, this is only based by calcium. And this is the idea behind the RCP. What we also found that in the beginning, you remember, that the RCP was 7-part. And now we converted to the 4-part. And the reason, to make things easier, I was able to combine the trace element into single solution. Not just combining them, but keep them in
balanced.
Not just in balance, but in a free form. When you put all elements in solution, they create complexes. And these complexes are not the form that can penetrate through tissues. Only the free form of elements can penetrate. Now, if you take a solution like seawater and concentrate all the elements inside, they start to create a complex. So one way to do it is to sell you water with just very homeopathic levels of trace element. And then you actually buy water. The other one was to find a way to create a highly concentrated trace element solution where the free form is high enough to supplement the aquarium.
That's why we see on competitor brand all elements separate, because they want high concentration and they need to keep separate to there is not this interaction start.
Yes, of course. This is why they provide you with single element. However, just as a mark for what you said now, if you understand the RCP, you understand that it's almost impossible for a single element to be reduced or be at higher concentration while the other elements are in balance. Because they are all consumed in the same proportion. So if one element is missing or in low concentration, probably all other are absorbed together. Especially, you remember at the 7th part, we have the iodine with all the halogens, because the iodine is the leading halogen in the biological consumption. If the coral consumes the iodine, it consumes also bromine and fluorine in direct proportion. It's the same with iron. When they consume iron, by definition, by chemical definition, they consume the same level of manganese, chrome, and zinc and aluminium, because the complexes, especially iron and manganese. And this was with the old trace element.
Remind me my university course in chemistry, where speaking about how the element table is set up and which element interact with other.
With each.
This is the same thing.
The same. And imagine, and just remember that now we create a very concentrated with high ionic strength, so the reaction rate is much faster, and we need to keep everything available for the corals.
So, for the people, normal people, not with PhD in chemistry, this is the one test that rules them all.
Yes, of course. And this is by the calcium estimation or by calcium demand. You can replenish all other trace elements.
The calcium test you have on the market right now is
Yes.
sufficient. No
It's
need,
sufficient
the
enough.
Pro one.
Yes.
Okay. No need to put on the market a new
No.
specific test.
It's very accurate with very low resolution with a mistake of plus minus 5 ppm. So it's
Ouais,
more
okay.
than enough to precise supplementing of all major, minor, and trace element.
So if people make correctly the test on the regular basis
Yes.
of the documentation of the product, they can throw away the other test.
Yes,
In spirit.
in spirit.
Yeah.
But I also recommend over time until the system, transfer into this program.
Yeah.
Okay, and for the hobbies to be comfortable, because most of them will tell you that I need to test alkalinity. This is the most important test. And now I'm telling them, no, leave the alkalinity aside. It's important.
Yeah.
But the limiting factor eventually will become the calcium.
Okay.
And I will explain, if you want, I will explain you why.
Okay.
But if you do a precise calcium measurement and you keep the salinity precise,
Okay.
which is also important, then a single calcium test eventually will be enough.
We can say with these explanations, that's why Red Sea didn't put on the market an ICP test.
Yes.
Because you are confident on the laboratory test you have done?
Of course, there are two reasons.
Okay.
I'm working with ICP since 2005. Not just the ICP OES, which is the optical emission, which most of the brands use now.
Yeah.
I also work with ICP MS, which is a much more sophisticated equipment cost in millions of euros. The difference is that with ICP-MS, you actually can measure the trace element concentration we have in seawater.
Okay.
Other thing is that in order to do a precise ICP OES analysis, you need to well understand seawater geochemistry to see the interferences. I'm not saying that the ICP test of other brands are inaccurate, but we've seen over the years
some flaw.
Yes, flaws of test and problems, and some companies also test elements that cannot be able or impossible to measure with ICP-OS because of contamination, like fluorine or even silicone. Yeah. And a company that provides you such elements in their test results, this raises a little bit question about the accuracy and the quality of the test. I don't think that ICP measurements is the wrong way. I think it's too complicated, and as I told you, it's impossible only for one element to be decreased or increased. Accurate. And all the time playing with single elements, this means that something is wrong with the geochemistry of the water. Okay. We try to make things much more simple.
That's why when ICP come out on the market, the first thing I see what surprised me that this is complex analysis,
yes, of course.
And through to everyday people. And I have seen a lot of questions of everyday people bring in the social network like Facebook about asking other people how they understand the ICP. And I see that's why now they use a color to see it's okay, not okay, okay.
Of course.
But people didn't understand the interaction of the element and how it's important. So the next step is to make information about you need to add iodine and other elements, but the people didn't understand the chemistry behind this. So there is complete information, lot of data, but not the knowledge about this. So this is like making some blind test.
But it's like, getting the blood test and try to understand what's going on instead of asking your doctor. Most of the time, if you read by Google, what's the result of your blood test, you'll become stressed. Then you go to the doctor and he tells you, look, everything is okay. Because, medic understand all the biological processes, what intervene with what. And if we don't understand and we see just the numbers going, on the scale, it becomes stress of it, okay? It's the same with the ICP. Unless you understand what's actually happening in the system, and again, one thing, it's important to understand that ICP measure the entire elements. Okay? most of the elements are in complex form. So even if you get reading, let's say, of high aluminum or high zinc level, first of all, the possibility of contamination through the process is huge. Other thing you need to understand, how much of this element is truly available in the seawater composition because of the ionic stress, the ionic strength of the solution, because of the high pH. I will tell you that in some elements, only 20% of the measured number is basically available for the corals, okay? And these are things that all the companies that provide the test should explain their customer, okay? And again, I think that we need to stop running after numbers, okay? We need to look for our corals.
You look at the tank.
Look at the tank, rather than look what are the numbers.
I think the main issues, people are very pissed off to make tests manually because you need to keep it in a warm condition, take 10 milligram of product, 10 the syringe, and they see the ICP as an easy solution, easy escape, because you take the water up via email courier and
okay, they give the responsibility to others. And I understand. Here you get numbers, and for most of the test kits are what we call a qualitative test, not a quantity test. It doesn't give you a precise number. You need to choose. And I think that the hope should be confidence in these test kits. Okay, most of them are precise enough to provide a healthy aquarium. I think I've seen over the years too many aquariums following ICP tests that went out of balance. Okay, so less success with ICP and more success with the simple ways. Remember, 6 years ago, we managed to grow very fine aquarium without the ICP. Okay, just on simple test kit and simple dosage of elements.
Just follow the guideline.
Follow the guideline. Be more precise.
The recipe reset in French.
Definitely. Definitely.
You are confident in the new product?
Yes,
of course. But did you fear that this new version of the product just throw away the old one?
It's an excellent question, and it's important to understand. Now we have the 4 parts, and we had the 7 parts. The only, and we thought how we can introduce it properly.
Okay.
We've seen over the years that there is an increase of people using Refugium or algae scrubber to control their nutrients. Now, people need to understand that when you introduce such filtration method, the element consumption change in the system, because the algae consume much more trace elements, much more metals in higher rates. It's at rates that are higher in 7 to 10, magnitude of 10, okay? So when you analyze your water, and you see reduction in these trace elements, it doesn't mean that the corals took them. More possibly it's the algae. Same with the alkalinity. We relate to alkalinity mainly as the carbonate alkalinity. However, there are a lot of other components of the alkalinity that when we measure total alkalinity are in, like phosphate, nitrate, the sulfate, and boron, and boric acid, for example. They are all also consumed by the algae, especially the carbonate. Because if you don't have enough dissolved CO2, algae can convert the bicarbonate to CO2 for photosynthesis. So a system with Refugium, it would be difficult to supplement precisely by calcium. Okay? And therefore, we would recommend, if you have a Refugium, follow the 7 parts, measure each component separately, measure the iodine, measure the iron, and supplement your system. Okay? If you don't use this method and you use a carbon source or other component for nutrients, you can stick to the 4 parts because the major consumption of elements will be the corals and the tridacna. Also clams, because they precipitate aragonite, the soft tissue, is very similar to corals, although it's a different animal.
Okay.
But the same elemental ratio fits reef only. It's for soft corals, the LPS mixed reef, and even the SPS dominant tank.
Okay.
Okay.
Next question. This is a tricky one because you bring the 4 parts, but every one converges on the 1 part.
Yes.
We not speak about brand, but you
of
see
course,
what.
of course. This is a fair question.
Why not just make the big jump?
Okay, because first of all, you understand that for corals we need to provide calcium and carbonate. You can't mix them. You can't mix them together because they will precipitate. Okay, unless you create a very low pH solution, and we don't want this pH. Low pH solution, strong acid, will dissolve the carbonate to CO2, and it will disappear, or it will reduce the pH of the system.
Okay.
Other methods to increase what we call DIC. It's the dissolved inorganic carbon. The carbonate and bicarbonate is bioorganic material. This is what these brands that provide all-in-one.
Okay.
However, this organic form of carbon also influence the bacterial activity. And you need biological processes to convert this organic material to bicarbonate. Personally, I don't think that this is the way to implement or introduce or replenish calcium and carbonate to the system, especially, and this is just the calcium and carbonate. I'm not talking on all the complexes that are created.
Other elements.
Yes, with the elements, if you want to provide a concentrated solution. And the complexes will start to precipitate over time. Yeah. And an ICP analysis will not tell you. This is the most important part to understand. Okay? Because you'll analyze it, you'll see all the elements in, but they are in complex form and are not available for the corals. Okay? Therefore, we decided not to follow. It's not that we can't do it. I don't think that this is the proper chemical way to introduce elements to the system.
Next question will be the automation, because all is
automated.
Automated today. So I think you will update the dosing system.
Yes, of course. So the ReefDose now has the ability, the automatic ability, to convert directly to the 4 parts. Okay. And you'll see when you put now the calcium as part 1, you'll see everything change to part 2, 3, and 4. And only when you change part 1, which is the calcium and magnesium supplement, automatically all the other 3 heads will be changed according to the 4 parts. Now the ratio are similar all the time. 1 ml of calcium react with 2 ml of alkalinity. And half ml of each of the trace element complex. And this is the dosing ratio of these elements. And it will be automatically. Is
the application will because there is a way to simplify the product. For example, the apps could ask the calcium test. To calculate automatically.
I know this is a fair and a good question. Hopefully in the future we will bring this capability. Yes, of course. It's a straightforward to do that.
With one test, it's more simple for the application to make the calculation automatically.
Yes, I just want to react to one question or one thing that we talked about is the alkalinity test. Okay, you said, can I throw now all the other tests? It is important to measure alkalinity, okay? But you can do it only once a week. When you start, you'll see the balance. You see that the calcium and alkalinity will be balanced, just to make sure. Most of us understand that they need to measure alkalinity. And as I explained to you, alkalinity is much more complicated as a concept. It's not just a single measurement of bicarbonate and carbonate. It also measures other major components like the boric acid, the sulfate, nitrate, and phosphate. Everyone that supplement his tank with nitrate and phosphate should understand that he changed the alkalinity. Okay? Not the carbonate either, not the DIC. So he can increase the alkalinity with nitrate, with salt with high sulfate levels, but without understanding that the DIC or the available carbonate are low. This is why I don't think that the alkalinity is the proper way to supplement elements, and accept that there are other processes. Nitrification consume a lot of, standard conversion of ammonia to nitrate, consume a lot of carbonate alkalinity. So for example, if you have a lot of fish, nitrification processes reduce the carbonate. Other processes like denitrification increase the carbonate alkalinity. Photosynthesis only consume carbonate alkalinity. And one last thing that we found, and this was published in PNAS, which is the leading scientific journal, what we found in my research, in my PhD, that basically corals can elevate their alkalinity by themselves. They don't need the external alkalinity.
Around? Yes.
Sorry?
Around them?
Yes. They can, inside the calcification center, they take the CO2 from the respiration and convert it to carbonate, and they get all the alkalinity they need for precipitation. To tell you the truth, we have found that coral gain the fastest growth rate at higher calcium of 600 and 800 ppm, even at alkalinity of 5 and 6 DKH. And the reason for that, because they are able to create their own DAC, which is a major, this was a major...
It's amazing.
Yes, it's a issue that we found.
It's factory.
Yes, and it, makes difference because people are running after the alkalinity all the time. And alkalinity enhance chemical precipitation. Sometimes we push the alkalinity too far, and it causes a precipitation, a chemical precipitation on the aquarium and not inside the corals. On the other hand, calcium is a limiting factor because the only way to gain calcium for the corals is what they have in seawater that enter the calcification center.
But one of the last question.
Yes.
For people using the 7 part or the other brand product, how they migrate to
this
solution?
First of all, everything starts with the salt. When you work, especially if you are converted from other brands, Red Sea salt basically is the basis of the RCP. Although the salt have other elements that are needed for some bacterial activity, if you use your NOPOX, you get all the trace elements for denitrification. But when you keep everything in balance and you start with the salt, because this is the major elemental solution,
The first step.
The first time. Yes, you fill your aquarium, You need to understand that you are in balanced condition, that when you measure the alkalinity, all the alkalinity components are in proportion. Then, the only thing you need to consider, start measuring the calcium, the average calcium consumption, And gradually, and when you know your calcium consumption, you just convert to this as is, Unless you have Refugium, we recommend to continue with the 7 pounds.
Quite simple.
Very simple.
On personal opinion, there is a lot of talk on the internet about not making saltwater change because cost of energy, cost of salt, cost of living. What is as biologist, your view about the water change on a regular basis?
Yes, so it's a very good question. During the years, I've tried to, I've system without water change when I dose the RCP, especially. I didn't change the water to see that the consumption is still in balance over a period of 2 years. And what I found that doing water change has much more effect on the water itself. We think that water comes only in one molecule of H2O. However, water has a lot of other molecules with radicals, without radicals, different forms of water. And I think that the water change itself, it's not about the element of the salt, but replacing the water
by itself.
by itself,
Yeah, so
which
just the water.
significant. It has a significant effect on the aquarium.
Okay.
I can tell you, after 20 years in Red Sea, I still think that regular water change is the key for success.
Okay.
It not need to be done in high quantities, but it need to be in schedule. Okay. If you decide to do it once a week, 5% or 10%, continue with this regime. Okay. Or do 20% or 30% once a month.
Okay.
But do the water change. It's the best, I think, maintenance you can do to your aquarium.
Okay.
Okay? As long as you use a good quality salt, which is in balance, it's the solution for everything.
Everything was fine.
Yes. Look, and there's a lot of, negative effect of using natural seawater, things like that. Use an artificial sea salt from a good brand, and it's one of the key for success, to my opinion. So to conclude, okay, I think that the key to success is a maintenance, remaining continuous maintenance of the system, using the 4 parts with a continuous calcium consumption measurement is the most precise way to supplement your aquarium with all major, minor, and trace elements in a simple way and in accurate way without the danger of overdosing metals or reducing the availability of trace element to the system.
To avoid to stress corals.
Yes, to stress the corals.
Yeah. I hope the user will enjoy the discovery of this new project.
Definitely.
And we'll see in the internet
the results.
Yeah, the results.
Yes.
Thank you for your time, Sharon.
Sebastian, it was a pleasure as always.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.